This movie is fair play, but will my review be fair play? What's up, Netflix fans? Welcome back to the channel. This movie is described as an erotic thriller. Okay, it dropped on Netflix. We're going to talk about it right now. An unexpected promotion at a cutthroat hedge fund pushes a young couple's relationship to the brink, threatening to unravel far more than their recent engagement. This stars Phoebe Dynevor and Alden Ehrenreich. It is rated R. There's pervasive language, sexual content, nudity, violence, and I mentioned what people are referring to this movie as on the Twitters and what, it's X. It's not Twitter. But I don't see that as much. I'm watching the film thinking it's not as steamy as I thought it would be. It's just a good old-fashioned, intense, thrilling drama. I had the same eerie, uneasy, just kind of on the edge of my seat feeling as I did. Well, really, the Safdie brothers filmography. Now, this is filmed in a drastically different way, but it's that gut feeling that I'm talking about, that uneasiness that you can get watching a movie like this where two characters, they're pushing each other to the edge, and I mean emotionally, on occasion physically, and you as a viewer, you have to endure this for 2 hours. Some people will get to the end of the second act and throw in the towel, say, I'm done. This is too much. Both of these characters, they're stressing me out. I was stressed out while watching this, but I love a story where two people are competing against each other, even if they don't want to admit it at first. And it starts out, both of our characters, Dynevor and Aldenreich's characters, they're on the same level at this hedge fund. They're both happy for each other. They're in love, but they don't really want to let people know how they feel about each other. Understandably so. Let's see what happens. But then one of the two starts to kind of rise through the ranks, and because of that, you have this sense of jealousy, and that goes from jealousy to anger. And when the anger starts to become more prevalent as the story goes, that's when the intensity picks up. But both sides, there's this competitive edge. At the same time, you as a viewer, you have to well, you don't have to, but you're going to inevitably pick a side as to, well, who is right. I understand why both feel the way they do.
You sure about that?
But what are the actions like from both of these characters as things get worse and worse or crazier and crazier, and then you start to see who each of these two characters are. And I thought this was a very well-written story. This is a story that kept me on the edge of my seat. Even though it's just basically dialogue, people yelling at each other. The head honchos at this hedge fund, one played by Eddie Marsan, who is always good, does not matter the role, the situation, great in this film. But you have this connection between those at the top and the one of the two, I'm trying not to spoil anything, who starts to rise through the ranks, and that makes the other jealous, and so you get jealousy. Like I said, it turns into rage. That rage is conveyed so beautifully, and first-time feature-length director Chloe DeMont does a wonderful job here. Chloe DeMont also wrote this film, so this is a 1-2 punch, someone you're going to need to be looking out for. Not only is it an interesting story, is it a catch your breath kind of story? The filmmaking here is good. I love the close-ups. We really get in the midst of these arguments. There's one scene, very different movie, very different circumstances, but it kind of reminded me of how I was feeling during that argument in Marriage Story with Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson. You feel the emotional weight of what they're screaming about. Again, circumstantially different, but I just love the way that both of those sequences made me feel, and I would say this was just as emotional as that one, even though there's a lot more rage involved with this, and the way that these two actors convey that rage. Look, the filmmaking's solid. I like the cinematography. I love the close-ups. Even the score, I think, works on occasion. It's not the most memorable score of all time, but within these circumstances, it works. It's Alden Ehrenreich. It's Phoebe Dynevor. Oh my God. They're amazing in this movie. I think there's one scene where Ehrenreich breaks, and I didn't fully buy into that specific emotion he was going for. Other than that, these are flawless performances. You feel every bit of what you need to feel, and I think they did a fantastic job as the two leads of this movie. And all in all, this works really well from a performance standpoint because even supporting players that have a very minuscule role, not one performance is bad here. And that's awesome. Where my issues come in with this movie is, again, It may be too much for some. You may watch this and be like, all right, this is a lot. My hesitation started to creep in a bit more in the third act because honestly, I kind of saw where this was headed. At a point in the movie, you begin to realize what is actually happening. And whereas, at the beginning, you get this very authentic, special, and kind of unexpected story and relationship and couple. But by the time you get to the end, you're like, yeah, I've sort of seen this movie before. I kind of knew where that was going. It ends off, and I mean the final line of dialogue was great, but prior to that point, it did start to become overly familiar, so that took it from, oh my god, this is phenomenal, to, yeah, I wish they would have fully capitalized in the third act, but it's not enough to say that's a huge detriment on the film. It's not enough to take away from the overall impact. Do I wish the third act was a little stronger? I do. Before I give you my score, what's the best movie on Netflix from 2023? And if you enjoy this content, you want to support the channel, dropping a like would be cool. Fair Play features 2 phenomenal and emotional performances at the center, and there is an intensity to this film that will have viewers locked in until the end. The third act doesn't fully capitalize, but the impact is there. What a nice surprise on Netflix. This one's worth a watch. Just be sure the kids aren't in the room, or they can be. I don't know.